Safety first. Please start the podcast before driving and do not interact with your phone while operating your vehicle.
Welcome to Impactful Dialogues, an Ecolab podcast elevating inclusion, mindfulness, purpose, awareness, collaboration, and trust through executive conversation. I'm your host, Vice President of Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Dexter Davis. Welcome to the first episode of Impactful Dialogues. Today we'll be speaking with Nick Alfano about his transition to the executive sponsor of EcoEssence. I also want to say hello to the audience, thank them for listening, and just want to say hi to Nick and thank you for participating.
Thank you, Dexter, and super happy to be here with you today.
Thank you, Nick. For those you don't know, Nick serves as an Executive Vice President and President of Ecolab's Global Industrial Group. Nick, quick question for you as we kind of start this discussion. It's good timing because we now are like in the middle of Black History Month, and I think it's important to think of the impact of all Black African associates and people who have had an impact on our history here in the United States. And I would love to just get a little bit from you and understand more from you. What is it like coming into this new role as an executive sponsor for EcoEssence and really get an opportunity to work with the enterprise leads? And what do you think and how are you feeling coming into this role? And once again, Nick, because this is something that's so important for what we're doing in diversity, equity, inclusion. I really do appreciate you raising your hand and being willing to take the role as executive sponsor for EcoEssence.
Yeah, Dexter, sure thing. And look, great question. And look, let me start here. I strongly believe in the power and connectivity that ERGs bring to the company. And as I learned more about EcoEssence and its goals to advance Black and African American career opportunities in the company, it felt right to me. And the reason is, last fall, I had the chance to attend the Executive Leadership Council, which is an organization dedicated to advancing Black executives in business. And I really thought about EcoEssence in Ecolab is a tremendous feeder for this. And that's why I decided to absolutely, when you asked me to become the executive sponsor for EcoEssence, that's why I said yes.
Thank you. I much appreciate that. And Nick, I do remember that ELC conference. It was so great to have you there and really be a part of that gala where it really shows the potential and the opportunities are for Black excellence, I would say, and for our associates here at Ecolab. And it meant a lot to have you be a part of that as well. And ELC is also just a strong partner for us and our diversity, equity, inclusion as well. You mentioned development, and one thing I think is important and what we've really been trying to push within our ERGs is the opportunity to have that interaction with your executive sponsors and really with that focus of development. This is a great opportunity for folks who raise their hand to be a part of it, to take a leadership role. And these are really leadership roles that are developing leadership skills. How do you look to go into this role as an executive sponsor, especially with all your experience as leadership over 30 years here at Ecolab? How will you work to really help and make sure those development opportunities and opportunity to really develop leadership skills with your enterprise leads will be?
Dexter, I spent some time with Peter and Karen, and they're the leaders of the EcoEssence chapter here globally, and really wanted to learn a lot about their vision and what they've done. And what I've come to learn is they've done a tremendous amount of work in the first year as the leads for EcoEssence. And I was really, really impressed with the branding and the rebranding that they've done, which really, gets out to all of our associates. What does EcoEssence stand for? What are they trying to accomplish? And ultimately, why should our associates, join an EcoEssence chapter? Because what comes out of that is the whole notion of development, like you mentioned. I'm a firm believer in that. I can act as a coach and a mentor. I think one of the things I take a lot of pride in at this point in my career is giving back. And so I really take it as job number one for me to make sure that when I see people that need development opportunities, albeit in the business, my business, or anywhere in the company, I have no problem making those connections and also counseling and mentoring those associates so they get the most out of it. Look, I was the recipient of a lot of good development and mentoring in my career, and now I feel it's time to give it back, and I will absolutely do that as the executive sponsor of EcoEssence.
That is so much appreciated, Nick. And I think what you said about the work and how far Karen and Peter has taken EcoEssence this first year has been really encouraging. And I would agree. The focus on how they are working to really bring all of the ecosystems together, have closer connection with their different chapters, I think is going to be very impactful. And I know with your partnership, that's only going to get better over the next couple of years. And I think that's what's exciting. It's part of our goals for our DEI is really how do we continue to mature our employee resource groups. And what you're talking about is exactly what we need them to continue to be doing. And also it speaks to the dedication from you of really understanding, hey, we gain a lot by helping others and giving people also the opportunities that we got. I wouldn't be where I'm at wouldn't for sponsors and mentors throughout my career, and it sounds like that's the same for you, Nick. And that kind of spirit, I think, is what we need to see more and more of when we really have that more of that talent first mentality here at Ecolab.
Yeah, Dexter, for sure, sure.
Yes. So, Nick, you've had a very successful career here at Ecolab, and you've really been known. You've had some projects where you really had to break down internal barriers to really enable teams. How has that dedication made an impact on your team and driven your career?
Yeah, look, Dexter, let me start by saying this. I really believe in the mission of this company to do the right things for our customers and for the world. And that's all enabled by our teams globally. And I've learned over the years that even though we have a consistent business model, it's delivered in different ways depending on the customers we serve and the geographies that we operate in. So this requires breaking down barriers and providing for diversity of thought. I'm a real big believer in diversity of thought. And where does diversity of thought come from? Diversity of thought comes from diversity of our associates. Now, I will say this. I've traveled to 70 plus countries in my career with the company and observed the impact of culture, albeit different cultures, to get the job done. So what this means is that we need to celebrate different cultures, embrace diversity, and assure that our associate base reflects this. So my job is always to look at the business situation, to look at how we're approaching things, and to make sure that we do break down barriers and we bring that diversity of thought that I just referenced to the equation. And I will tell you this, Dexter, it works. I have observed this many, many times in my career in many different business situations. When we do that right, it works for our associates, it works for our customers, and it works for Ecolab.
100% agree, Nick, and well said. I remember our first conversation when I first started, you talked about the value of teams and how important that is, very much what you said here today. And I think that is so important, and I think it's so important for us, for our associates to feel like they can be their best here and feel like their different perspectives will be heard and valued. And in that spirit, when you think about that fostering engagement and empowerment, ERGs, I think, play a critical role in our commitment to creating that diverse and innovative workplace you're talking about. In this context, what is your vision and plans in working with Peter and Karen to really ensure that the future of EcoEssence continues on the path of really impacting our underrepresented folks and also our Black African-American associates across our country and even in Brazil? We have a chapter in Brazil as well, to really shape the growth so that the EcoEssence continue to impact our associates and organizations.
Yes. So look, I as I said, I really like the work that Peter and Karen have done in the first year. It's really, they've covered a lot of ground quickly. You know, one of the things we talked about was using my voice to make sure that EcoEssence gets the airtime that it deserves, not just in industrial, but in the company, right? So I gave them my commitment that I would do that. Also, I feel like from where I sit, I have the opportunity to give support to EcoEssence, both, you know, from a contribution standpoint and also from a marketing standpoint. We talked about the need for marketing communication support and other things, IT support that we can do so that the EcoEssence brand can get out to the company and we can affect a lot more individuals. So again, I think Peter and Karen have done a wonderful job in year one, you know, leading EcoEssence. My job is to be additive to them and just to get things, you know, maybe out there in a broader sense, you know, keep it top of mind, not only in industrial, but with the company, and to use the resources that I can bring to bear to do that. But like I said, I think they're doing a fantastic job so far in the first year.
I 100% agree. Hey, Nick, as we think about that, like you said before, you've played the mentor role quite often in your career. Why is it important for executives to really play that mentor sponsorship role? Because I think a lot of times people think the mentor relationship is really just about the mentee. But I know I get a lot of being the mentor, and you learn a lot from the mentee. I'd love to hear a little bit from you. How's that? What do you get out of that mentorship relationship?
Yeah, Dexter, look, it's a great question. I get a lot out of it. I get a lot of energy from it. I mean, one of the things is I get to meet a lot of people in the company, and I get to talk to a lot of associates about, where they are in their career, where they want to go. And I get an immense amount of satisfaction out of helping the next generation of leaders in this company to lead this company, right? I mean, like I said, I was the recipient of a lot of help, in my 28 years with Ecolab. And people did it without even asking a question, right? Why? And that's the same thing I plan to do, and I continue to do, is when people say to me, hey, can I get 15 minutes of your time? I want to run something by you. I like that. I mean, I feel, Dexter, that senior leadership needs to be out with our folks, right? My job is not sitting in my office in Naperville. My job is to be out with our teams and talking to our teams, making sure I understand, what they're going through on a day-by-day basis. And I even ask my leaders, are there people you feel that I could mentor or help during the course of their career? And to the extent that I can do it, I do. And these are not, year-long things. I mean, it could be a 15-minute conversation or 3 times a year where I meet somebody for lunch. It's frankly, it's one of the best parts of my job. And I feel like I said before, at this part in my career, it's something I want to do, I like to do, and I think it's going to really, it should make a difference for people. So happy to do it.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Hey, as we think about, I hear you talk, Liz, it made me think a little bit about the role that our executive sponsors also play in allyship. And I want to talk a little bit more about that first. As you know, we have our 2030 impact goals that we've been really moving forward to over the last 5 or 6, 7 years. And we're not where we want to be at from a representation from the people of color, Black, African American, and women. But we've made progress. And I think a lot of that progress really centers around allyship. I'd love for you to get your perspective on the importance of allyship, because sometimes allyship is different than mentorship, because you may not have that direct relationship, but you know enough about a person that you can speak to them when they're not in the room. How important that is, you think that's really fueled our progression, our progress we've made to date?
I do think it has. I mean, look, I think one of the things we've learned is, in terms of enhancing our goals here, we're never going to get to 100% where we say, you know what, this person is 100% ready for this role or that role. You have to look at the body of work, and you have to look at the resume, and we just need to act quicker and more decisively and put people in roles, even if we think it's a stretch. Okay. And I remember, Dexter, when I was younger in my career, I was one of the people that would say, well, they're not 100% ready. And that day is gone. Okay. That day is gone, because this company is set up in such a way that we put people in roles, we can stretch them, we can give them new assignments, and nothing catastrophic is going to happen. I really believe that. So I feel like when we identify talent, either inside the company or outside the company, we should not be afraid to take the stretch and put those associates in different roles that'll challenge them, that'll stretch them, make sure there's a good enough team around them, that nothing's going to happen that's detrimental to the business, and let's keep doing this. I really believe that is the way this company will continue to grow and bring in the right diversity of thought that we need.
Mm-hmm. Good. And I think that speaks to the role of, I think about through my career and how many jobs I had where I felt like I was 100% ready. I think it took allies to step up and say, hey, I see enough here for this person to be able to go through this. And you gain and learn so much for that growth. And I think that's sometimes missed to say, hey, it could be a stretch, but what you gain from a development perspective in those stretch roles really position you to even have better opportunities in the future. So that's good to hear that you have that perspective as well, because I do think that's so important. We can't get so caught up in checking the box of every single thing that everybody has to have for every role, because nobody's going to be ready for a role that they meet every single point. And it leaves no room for that innovation and development in a way somebody could do it differently if they're really developing and growing in their role. So I 100% agree in that perspective. Nick, one more question for you as we kind of think about this as we start towards the mid of Black History Month and really celebrating the achievements of all of the folks who made the world improve in a lot of ways. And have made us also reflect on all the sacrifices that, especially me, growing up as a Black man in America, all the sacrifices people put in front of me that gives me the opportunity to be able to be in the roles and to kind of have a life I have today. As we think about it and reflect about that, and we think about and reflect about how much further we have to go, what do you think we need to continue to do from an organization to make sure the voices of our underrepresented associates are continue to be heard? Whether it's EcoEssence, ASER, all of our ERGs, what do you think we need to continue to do to make sure all those voices are heard and people feel seen here at Ecolab?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me just start by saying this. So in the month of February, Black History Month, I was in 4 or 5 different places in the United States. So I had the opportunity to, see exposés and news shows in different places. So Minnesota, Florida, Illinois, about Black History Month, and absolutely amazed by the different stories I heard about astronauts, entrepreneurs, opera singers, educators. I mean, it was fascinating for me to learn about, the history of Black Americans and the things that they've done, born out of maybe some great ideas, but also some challenges. And so I think that, for the company, we need to continue to tell those stories, right? I mean, history is a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. I think history is a good thing because A, we learn from it, and B, we can adapt to it. And I think that's what I learned about Black history was there's so much history there that a lot of people don't even know about. And when you take the time to step back and understand it and read and learn, it's a powerful story. And I think that's what we have to do is we have to make sure we keep those stories out front. We have to make sure that we give people time to learn and talk about those things, and then continue to build on it. I mean, that to me, that's what the company's got to do. That's the purpose of the ERGs, right? And I think if we do that right, this company's going to be set up for the next 100 years in a fantastic way.
Well said. Totally agree. And I think as we continue Black History Month and you think about that and what you're really speaking to, Nick, what I really heard is like when you learn and understand people's history and have an active interest in that, you also develop empathy and understanding as well. And frankly, I think we need more of that in this country, in this world right now, too, is empathy and understanding. And I think another important piece you mentioned, too, is what I hear you saying is like Black History Month is important. It's important to understand the history and for people to recognize it's American history. So it's all of our history as well. And taking that active interest is so important for all of us to do. Right?
Absolutely. So Dexter, the word empathy, I think, is super important. And I think if we all had, equal amounts of empathy moving forward, we'll be able to continue to do great things, not just for the company, but for the world. Absolutely.
Yes. Good. Well, Nick, once again, I just want to thank you for your time and having this conversation with us. And I just want to also say I've really appreciated your partnership and your leadership and really making sure that we continue to be intentional and stay in focus in our diversity, equity, inclusion goals. And also in your approach of really understanding teams, empowering teams, and understanding that inclusion is so important for us to really continue to move forward here at Ecolab, because when everybody feels like they're included and they can belong, great things can happen and great teams evolve. And I know you've told me stories about teams where you've had to develop and bring them together and that really produce great results for our organization. So I appreciate everything you've done so far, Nick, and I'm really excited for you to take this next opportunity to really build on what Darryl Brown did before as executive sponsor of EcoEssence, to really take us to the next level and really continue that work and mature in our ERGs as they play such an impact in what we do here at Ecolab. So thank you.
Yeah, well, Dexter, thank you for giving me this opportunity today. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the frank, open dialogue that you allowed me to to bring forth today, and I really look forward to being the executive sponsor of EcoEssence and doing the things we talked about today. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Nick. And thanks to everyone for listening. That's a wrap for this conversation. And be sure to tune in the next time for a conversation with Jen Bradway, our Senior Vice President and Corporate Controller, about International Women's Days and Ecolab's efforts to inspire inclusion year-round. Thank you. And once again, Nick, I appreciate the great discussion.
Thank you.